We begin with breaking news just into our newsroom. There's heavy smoke coming from a business just off Veterans Boulevard on the West Fargo side. This is video that shows the smoke that we're told coming from a row of businesses in the 800 block of 24th Avenue East. That includes Mattress Firm. Now I say Mattress Firm because that's the name of the building that you can make out in the video. We did call Mattress Firm. A spokesperson tells us the fire is nearby but not there. It's in a car that's on fire. The call came in around 5:30. Fire crews remain on the scene, and we hope to have more information soon. Tonight, there's word of an effort aimed at preventing opioid deaths, not only here in the Red River Valley, but across the country. It started here in Fargo with more than $500,000 in federal funding. Valley News Team's Kellen Harmon shows us how these funds are being used to save lives.
The fight against the opioid epidemic has gotten a heavy investment after the ONE program, an opioid and naloxone education program started at NDSU, received $632,000 from the North Dakota Department of Health and Human Services. There are two big measures in place, from preventative to life-saving. For preventative, they work with local pharmacies to supply a risk screening program where pharmacists and patients work together to determine if patients should be prescribed a lower dosage opiate or an opiate-free alternative.
We've had individuals, because of that conversation, say, you are so right, and I'm so glad you brought this up because I've been wanting to change this.
Another big effort is supplying naloxone emergency treatment kits, which contain the nasal medication, medical equipment, and an instructional video so that anybody with no knowledge can potentially save someone's life.
As you aim the tip towards the ear, you will push the plunger firmly.
As with the funding, it'll help the organization broaden efforts by doubling their reach for screenings as well as saturate the state with these emergency kits, which cost about $150 each.
Since July, we've doubled the number of interventions done per day because we've taken on all the pharmacies in the Thrifty White network. We've doubled the scale of the project.
Anytime we can expand a program like this, it benefits everybody. It makes people more aware of what they're taking. It makes our job as pharmacists easier because as we're counseling, they've already kind of looked at this list to see, these could be potential problems.
For program leaders and those who work with them, they're thankful for not only the investment in their work, but the people in need of help.
Anything we can do to try and give them an opportunity to recover is worth doing. And anything we can do to help keep someone from succumbing to an overdose is worth doing.
In Fargo, Kellen Harmon, Valley News Live.
For the naloxone emergency kits, Strand says that they hope to have them across the state in public areas from schools to bus stops. He also added that the ONE program helps more than 800 patients a month throughout North Dakota. On to the weather now, where the word warmer replaces colder, and then colder may come back to. I'll let Hutch explain. Hutch?
Yeah, quite the roller coaster we're in for as we go through the next few days. Well, we've had our taste of very, very frigid air today. We tied a record in Fargo at 10 degrees, and we broke records down in Sisseton. 13 the low there, but we told you last night single-digit lows were in the offing, and that's exactly what happened. Southeast North Dakota for Wolverton, Leonard 6 degrees this morning, and Grand Forks at 9 unbalmy degrees. We're in the 30s and even 40s here in the eastern third of North Dakota, 50s in the central part of the state as that warm-up is on its way. For tonight, though, because we have mostly clear skies and because we have calm wind, we're going to see temperatures cool off fairly quickly, some of us dipping into the teens. And then, as we go through our temperature roller coaster on a peak for the weekend ahead. After that, look at, there's a hole in the bottom of the bucket. And not only that, it comes with flakes of snow in the forecast. So I'll have details on what could be a wintry start to the week next week for some of us. Details in just a few moments. Mike?
We'll have to enjoy the warmth while we have it.
Indeed.
All right, thanks. Current Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and Republican challenger Scott Jensen are going head-to-head in a debate that starts in less than an hour. We will be broadcasting it on KX4 and on our website. It's hosted by Valley News Live and our parent company, Gray Media Group. That's where we find Valley News Team's Justin Betty, who's in Rochester, Minnesota right now, preparing to ask questions to the pair of candidates. Justin, set the scene for tonight's debate, will you?
Hi, we're here outside the KTTC studios in Rochester, Minnesota, getting ready for tonight's gubernatorial debate. I can tell you the candidates just arrived not that long ago. In fact, I think that's Dr. Jensen right behind us. She's showing up. Governor Walz just showed up a few minutes ago. Hi there. Amazing timing. Getting ready for tonight's debate. In addition to the candidates walking in, we have a team of journalists coming in. How are you getting ready for tonight?
Yeah, good. Sunny sky.
Yeah, a little cool today, but a nice day.
It's going to be nice this weekend.
Sounds
we
good.
need the Gophers to win.
Good luck. We'll talk to you soon. Again, in addition to the candidates who are here tonight, we have a team of journalists from all across the state. In addition to Fargo-Moorhead, we also have a reporter from Duluth here, a reporter from Mankato, and of course Rochester. A lot of hot topics we're talking about tonight. I can't give it all away, but we'll certainly talk about the budget surplus, about abortion, about inflation, about crime, and we'll do that all and bring it to you tonight. The studio itself is closed off to the public, but we are streaming it live on valleynewslive.com and on KX4, in addition to stations all across the state. We'll see you back here tonight at 7.
Justin Betty reporting live, as you can tell, from Rochester. Thanks, Justin. In other news today, 2 kids were abducted by their dad in Virginia. They were found safe near Bismarck, North Dakota. Virginia State Police sent out an Amber Alert for the 1-year and 2-year-olds Monday afternoon after they were abducted by their father, 36-year-old Timothy Truitt, from Walmart on Sunday. The children are in the care of Child Protective Services. The Burleigh County Sheriff's Office arrested Truitt, who is wanted for felony abduction. The kids were believed to be in extreme danger. At least one person was arrested last night following a high-risk traffic stop. That person was linked to several residential and vehicular burglaries in and around Jamestown. In all, 4 people were arrested after subsequent search warrants were served. The charges are related to burglary, possession of stolen property, firearms violations, and various drug charges. Police say that more arrests could be made. 2 of the searches took place in the Jamestown Comfort Inn. Another search was conducted at a motel room at the Quality Inn, where drugs were found. 4 options remain for the potential 2nd Street pedestrian bridge back here in Fargo. One of those being put to a stop to the process entirely. The bridge would be built over the 2nd Street North in front of Fargo City Hall, bringing bikers and walkers above the flood walls and the greenway along the Red River. And as learned at a public input meeting today, feelings are strong on both sides.
But I question the amount of spending to put a crosswalk, in essence, with a view of a river when, there's crosswalks on either end of that.
People are excited to connect downtown to the river. It's not something we've been able to do as a community incredibly well with the investments we've needed to make in flood protection.
Officials say if approved, they aim to break ground in 2024, and also say, depending on the design chosen, the bridge could cost anywhere between $3 and $11 million. Later on Valley News Live at 6, a Minnesota education leader is on the hot seat. We'll tell you what he said and why he's not backing down.
And we had some areas with temperatures closer to 0 than to 10 degrees, but that's where we were this morning in Fargo, tying a record set back in 1972. Breaking a record in Sisseton today. As we head into the weekend, we warm up, but after that, a slap of winter wind and snow for some possible. Details straight ahead.
This is Valley News Live.